The Zenin Massacre in JJK is one of the most talked about events in the series, a moment of shocking violence that at first seems to carry significant weight. Maki Zenin, driven by years of systemic abuse and familial neglect, rises against her own clan, delivering brutal justice to those who oppressed her. On the surface, it reads as a climactic and morally charged scene, one that could interrogate questions of vengeance, justice, and institutional corruption. Yet, despite its narrative potential, the massacre ultimately functions less as a meaningful exploration of these themes and more as a spectacle designed to elevate Maki's personal arc. The story never fully engages with the consequences of such extreme violence, leaving the event feeling disconnected from the larger narrative world of Jujutsu Kaisen. At the heart of the massacre is Maki's moral ambiguity. She is clearly justified in resenting her family. The clan is built on sexism, nepotism, and an unyielding hierarchy that actively suppresses those who are born without cursed energy. Maki and her sister Mai are victims of this system, and the audience is primed to see Maki's rage as righteous. However, the story complicates this just enough to raise questions about retribution and morality. Not every member of the Zenin Clan was a direct antagonist. Some were passive observers, bound by tradition but not actively complicit in Maki's suffering. Despite this, Maki hunts down clan members who are not immediately involved in her personal struggle, pursuing revenge indiscriminately. This blurs the line between justice and personal vendetta, leaving viewers uncertain whether her actions are morally sound or an unchecked eruption of anger. Unlike other, similar morally fraught actions in fiction, where characters' choices are examined, questioned, and challenged, Maki's massacre does not provoke the story itself to reflect on the ethics of her actions. The audience is left to wrestle with their own judgment, but the narrative itself remains unconcerned. One of the most striking aspects of the massacre is the absence of psychological consequences for Maki. In stories that depict mass slaughter, there is almost always a reckoning, emotional, moral, or social. Characters who kill family or commit atrocities often face guilt, trauma, or a shift in personality that marks them permanently. For mainstream examples, think of Itachi Uchiha in Naruto, or Anakin Skywalker's transformation in the prequel trilogy. Their acts carry weight, shaping not only their identities but also their relationships and the world around them. Maki, by contrast, emerges from the massacre largely unchanged. There is no exploration of grief, remorse, or the internal consequences of annihilating one's own family. The massacre is intense and shocking, but it doesn't really affect her character in a way that feels narratively consequential. This lack of introspection reduces the massacre to a spectacle, an adrenaline-fueled demonstration of power, rather than a moment of character development or moral inquiry. I enjoyed the emotional build-up and the massacre itself, so the lack of any kind of emotional aftermath just felt jarring. The narrative also neglects the social and political fallout of the massacre. In most stories, an event of this magnitude would ripple outward, affecting not only the perpetrator, but also the surviving community, neighboring institutions, and even the world at large. Yet in JJK, the Zenin Massacre is treated as a largely isolated incident. The clan itself is given next to no depth beyond its function as an oppressive institution, so their destruction carries limited emotional weight. Questions that might naturally arise remain unanswered. What happened to the non-combatants, the women and the children who were part of the clan? Were they spared or killed? If spared, how did they survive? We know that the clan had a rigid traditional structure. Could the women take care of themselves? And what of Megumi, now the head of the remaining clan members? Does he bear some responsibility for protecting or guiding them? The story offers no commentary, leaving these questions lingering in the audience's mind. Gege doesn't have to answer any of these questions. We don't need answers for everything, but we should have gotten something. And without that follow-up, the massacre becomes a narrative moment that can only partially advance Maki's arc, and one that can't explore the larger ramifications of wiping out a major family within the world. This narrow focus on Maki's personal vengeance also undermines the potential exploration of institutional violence. The Zenin Clan is not purely evil. Like most hierarchical institutions, it contains individuals who may be complicit in tradition, but are not directly responsible for the suffering of people like Maki and Mai. By concentrating solely on Maki's retribution, the story bypasses the opportunity to examine the nuances of intergenerational trauma, systemic oppression, and the moral complexity of punishing an entire lineage for the sins of a few. The massacre is reduced to an emotional outburst rather than a strategic commentary on power, legacy, or societal reform. Questions about how this event reshapes power dynamics in the sorcerer community or affects the balance of power among other clans are left unanswered. It's a moment meant to impress and shock, not to interrogate or reflect, which is unfortunate because the moments in the story where Gege does take the time to reflect and interrogate are some of the best in the series. Ultimately, the Zenin Massacre is a missed opportunity. It could have been a profound exploration of morality, intergenerational trauma, and societal critique. Instead, it exists as a moment of isolated spectacle. Fans are left debating the morality of Maki's actions, wondering about the fate of the non-combatants, and questioning the narrative consequences that never materialize. The story moves on, leaving a major event with almost no impact on the characters, worlds, or moral landscape of sorcerer society. The massacre is shocking, dramatic, and visually memorable, but without follow-up or narrative engagement, it feels hollow. A thrilling moment that ultimately contributes very little to the broader story. A manga-defining scene that ultimately changes almost nothing. But that's all for now. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps support the channel, and I'll see you all next time.